Amina's life had always been like a carefully written book. Every page decided for her long before she ever got the chance to hold the pen. Born in a small, traditional village, she grew up surrounded by rules that told her how to dress, how to speak, and even how to think. Her family was respected in the community, but with that respect came heavy expectations. She was taught from childhood that obedience was the most important quality in a woman. For years, Amina followed every rule without question. She wore the clothes her mother chose, spoke softly as her father instructed, and kept her opinions hidden. But inside, there was a quiet fire. Dreams of making her own decisions, of walking into a world where her heart led the way. That fire grew slowly, fed by small acts of courage. She read books that weren't approved. She made friends outside, her family's chosen circle. And sometimes she even questioned the traditions in her mind. One day, the fire inside her broke through. Amina refused a marriage proposal that her family had carefully arranged. The man was wealthy and from a well-known family, but Amina had seen the coldness in his eyes. She could not imagine a life with him, no matter how much her parents told. Her, it was for her own good. Her refusal was like a stone thrown into still water. It sent ripples through the entire community. Her decision was seen as defiance, and in her family's eyes, defiance could not go unpunished. The elders met, whispering about how to correct her. Their answer was a marriage, but not to someone from their village or even their culture. They chose a man named Hassan, a stranger from the city, a man with different customs, different ways, and a different heart. To Amina, it felt like a sentence, not a marriage. They told her that if she could not obey her family's choice, then she would live with someone who would not treat her like the precious daughter she was used to being. They thought this would humble her, make her see the value of obedience. When she first saw Hassan, she noticed nothing but the differences. He spoke with confidence, but without the formal politeness she was used to. His clothes were simple, his smile easy, and his eyes curious, as if he was trying to read her without words. She did not smile back. The wedding was quiet and without joy. Amina stood in her traditional dress, her hands trembling as the ceremony went on. Her heart was heavy, her mind full of silent protests. She felt as though she was walking into a life that didn't belong to her. Hassan, on the other hand, seemed calm, but there was something in his expression, perhaps confusion, perhaps hope. After the wedding, they moved to Hassan's small house in the city. The place was nothing like her family's home. There were no wide courtyards, no walls painted with bright colors, no sound of relatives in every corner. It was just the two of them, and the silence between them was almost louder than any argument could be. Amina kept her distance. She cooked because it was expected, spoke only when necessary, and stayed in her room for hours. She thought of her family often, not because she missed their rules, but because she felt abandoned. They had sent her away to teach her a lesson, and now she was far from everything familiar. Hassan, however, did not push her. He asked simple questions like, "Did you eat?" or "Do you need anything from the market?" But he never demanded her attention. That puzzled her. She had expected him to be harsh, to take advantage of her situation, but instead, he seemed patient. She didn't trust it. In the evenings, Amina would sit by the window, looking at the street below. She watched children play, old men talk, on benches and women carrying groceries with ease. The city was different, faster, noisier, and somehow freer. But even with the open streets, Amina felt caged in her own heart. The days passed slowly, each one feeling like a copy of the last. Amina wondered how long she could live like this. She didn't know what Hassan thought about their situation, and she didn't ask. To her, this was just survival, a way to get through the punishment her family had chosen. But somewhere deep inside, a part of her wondered if this was really all there was to her story. She didn't know it yet, but the pages ahead would not be as predictable as the ones behind. This was just the beginning of something she could not yet name. After the wedding, Amina's life felt like she was trapped in a cold, dark room with no windows. She found it hard to accept that this new life, forced upon her, was now her reality. She did everything out of duty and habit, but never from the heart. Each day felt like a struggle, an effort to survive rather than to live. She kept herself distant from Hassan. When he tried to talk, she gave short answers. When he reached out to hold her hand, she pulled away. She was afraid to open her heart because she thought love would only bring more pain. The memories of her family's punishment weighed heavily on her mind, making her unsure if she could ever trust anyone again. Hassan, on the other hand, was patient. He did not get angry when she refused his kindness or when she stayed quiet for hours. He respected her space even when it hurt him. He knew that forcing her would only make things worse. Instead, he waited quietly, hoping that one day she would see him not as a punishment, but as a person who cared deeply for her. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Amina's heart remained closed, but deep inside, the walls she had built started to crack. It was not because she suddenly fell in love, or because her feelings changed quickly. It was because Hassan showed something she had never experienced before: consistency. Every morning, Hassan woke up early to prepare breakfast, even though Amina often refused to eat with him. He kept the house clean and made sure there was always fresh water and warm food. He never complained, and he never asked for anything in return. One evening, Amina was feeling sick and weak. She had stayed in her room all day, too tired to do anything. Hassan noticed and gently brought her a bowl of soup. He didn't say much, just smiled softly and placed the bowl beside her. In that quiet moment, something inside Amina softened. She looked at Hassan, not as the man her family forced her to marry, but as a kind person who cared for her well-being. For the first time, she felt a small flicker of gratitude. Despite this small change, Amina was still afraid. She worried that if she let herself get close to Hassan, she would lose control again. She had spent so many years living under others' rules that she did not know how to trust her own feelings. She was afraid of being hurt, of being abandoned. Again, Hassan understood this fear. He did not rush her. Instead, he found ways to show his kindness without expecting anything back. Sometimes he would leave little notes around the house, simple words like, "Take care," or "I am here if you need me." These small gestures were like tiny bridges, slowly connecting their separate worlds. Amina began to notice these notes. At first, she ignored them, but one day, feeling lonely, she read one carefully. The words made her feel less alone than she had in a long time. She kept the note and put it on her bedside table. As the months went by, Amina started to come out of her room more often. She helped Hassan with small chores and even shared meals with him. Their conversations were short and careful, but they were happening. One afternoon, while they were sitting in the small living room, Hassan asked Amina about her dreams. She was surprised by the question because no one had ever asked her that before. Slowly, she told him about her wish to learn to read more books, to travel outside the village, and to find a life where she could be free. Hassan listened carefully and smiled. He told her that he wanted those things for her too, and that they would find a way to make her dreams come true. That moment was important for Amina. For the first time, she saw Hassan not as the man who was part of her punishment, but as someone who wanted to build a future with her. Still, the outside world was not easy. Their families did not accept the marriage, and sometimes they sent harsh words or stopped speaking to them. Amina and Hassan had to face criticism and judgment, but they stood together, finding strength in their small, growing bond. Even with the difficulties, Amina began to hope. She realized that while her life had started with punishment, it could change. Maybe, just maybe, this marriage could become a partnership built on respect and care. The struggle was not over. Amina's heart was still guarded, and she still felt pain from the past. But the cold distance was melting slowly, replaced by a quiet warmth. Hassan's patience and kindness were opening doors inside her that she thought were locked forever. She began to believe that healing was possible and that love could be found even in the most unexpected places. And so, the story of Amina and Hassan moved forward, not as two strangers forced together, but as two people learning how to trust and care for each other, one small step at a time. Slowly, as the days turned into months, Amina's heart began to change in ways she never expected. At first, it was just small things, a smile here, a shared meal there, but these moments started to mean more to her than she realized. Hassan was no longer just the man her family had forced her to marry as punishment. He was becoming someone she could talk to, someone who listened without judgment. This change did not happen overnight. It was quiet and gentle, like a soft breeze that slowly melts the ice on a frozen lake. One afternoon, Amina was sitting by the window sewing a piece of cloth. Hassan came in quietly and sat beside her. For a while, they did not speak. Then Hassan asked softly, "What are you making?" Amina looked up, surprised that he was interested. She explained it was a gift for her sister, a scarf she had been working on secretly because her family did not allow her to spend time on such things. Hassan smiled and said, "It's beautiful. She will love it." That simple compliment warmed Amina's heart. She realized that Hassan noticed the things she cared about, even when she thought she was invisible to him. As time went on, they started sharing more about themselves. Hassan told Amina about his childhood in the city, his dreams of starting a small business, and the people he missed from his family. Amina shared stories about her village, her favorite places, and her secret hopes for the future. Their conversations helped them understand each other better. Amina began to see Hassan as a real person with feelings and dreams, not just a stranger or a punishment. Hassan, too, learned about the world Amina came from and the challenges she faced. One day, they decided to visit Amina's village together. It was the first time Hassan met her family and community. The visit was difficult at first. Some relatives were cold and judgmental, still angry about the way the marriage had happened, but Hassan did not show anger or frustration. He stayed calm and respectful. Slowly, some family members began to accept him because they saw how much he cared for Amina. The visit also gave Amina a chance to reconnect with her past. She introduced Hassan to her old friends and showed him the places she loved. Walking through the village with Hassan made her feel hopeful. Maybe, she thought, her life was starting to become her own. Back in the city, life continued with its ups and downs. There were still days when Amina felt afraid or sad. Sometimes memories of her old life made her want to run away. But Hassan was always there, holding her hand when she needed support. One evening, Amina faced a difficult choice. A family member from her village wanted her to return home and leave Hassan. They believed that since the marriage was a punishment, she should not stay with him. Amina felt torn. Part of her wanted to go back to the familiar safety of her family, but another part of her had grown to trust Hassan, to believe in the life they were building together. After a long night of thinking, she decided to stay. She realized that her happiness did not depend on where she was born or what others expected. It came from the love and respect she found with Hassan. This decision was a turning point. Amina began to open her heart more fully. She smiled without fear and shared her dreams out loud. Hassan encouraged her to learn new skills and helped her enroll in a local class to improve her education. With each step, their bond grew stronger. They learned how to support each other through hard times and celebrate small victories. Their marriage was no longer a punishment, but a partnership built on trust, kindness, and understanding. Amina's transformation surprised everyone, especially herself. From a girl who once felt trapped and hopeless, she became a woman who believed in the power of love and the possibility of a new beginning. The journey was far from easy, but with Hassan by her side, Amina felt ready to face whatever came next. Together they were writing a new story, one filled with hope, courage, and the healing power of human connection. As time passed, the walls that Amina had carefully built around her heart began to break down completely. The distance and coldness that had once filled their home slowly disappeared, replaced by warmth and understanding. Amina and Hassan were no longer two strangers forced into marriage, but two people learning to share their lives together. One day, Hassan surprised Amina by bringing home a small plant. He said, "This is for us to take care of, like our life together." At first, Amina wasn't sure what to think. But as they watered the plant and watched it grow, it became a symbol of their growing relationship. They started to spend more time together. In the evenings, they would sit and talk about their days, their hopes, and their fears. Hassan listened carefully whenever Amina spoke, never interrupting or judging. He celebrated her small successes and encouraged her when things were difficult. Amina felt something new. She felt safe. After years of feeling punished and controlled, she finally felt she had a place where she could be herself. Hassan never demanded more than she could give. He waited patiently for her to open up, understanding that trust and love could not be rushed. One afternoon, Amina shared a story about her childhood. She talked about her favorite place in the village, a small garden where she used to sit and dream. Hassan suggested that they try to create a small garden outside their home. Together they planted flowers and herbs, turning their yard into a peaceful place filled with life and color. The garden became a special place for both of them. It was where they talked, laughed, and planned for the future. It reminded Amina that life like a garden needed care, patience, and hope. Despite their growing closeness, challenges still came. Some members of their families refused to accept their marriage. Sometimes harsh words were spoken and cold shoulders were given, but Amina and Hassan faced these challenges together. When criticism came, Hassan stood beside Amina and said, "We will show them that love can change everything." Their strength as a couple grew stronger with every test. Amina also began to believe in herself more. She enrolled in classes to learn new skills and started to dream bigger dreams. She wanted to build a life where she could help others like her, people who felt trapped or punished by their circumstances. Hassan supported every step. He celebrated her courage and reminded her that she was not alone. Together, they planned for a future where Amina could follow her passions and live freely. One evening, while sitting in their small garden, Amina looked at Hassan and said, "I never thought this life could be mine. I thought I was only a punishment. But now I see that I am so much more." Hassan smiled and took her hand gently. "You are strong, brave, and full of love. You have touched my heart, Amina, and together we will build a beautiful life." Their journey was not perfect. There were still hard days, moments of doubt and fear, but the love they had found was real and powerful. It gave them the courage to face the future with hope. Amina's story showed that sometimes what seems like a punishment can become a new beginning. With patience, kindness, and trust, even the hardest hearts can heal. And so, Amina and Hassan continued to grow together, two souls who found love not because it was easy, but because they chose to believe in it. With each passing day, Amina and Hassan's bond grew stronger. What had started as a forced marriage, a punishment, had slowly turned into a partnership full of respect and love. They learned that true connection comes from understanding, patience, and kindness. Amina often thought back to the early days when she had felt trapped and alone. Now, she felt different. She was no longer the frightened young woman who resisted her new life. She had found strength within herself and peace in the life she was building with Hassan. Their home became a place of warmth and laughter. The small garden they had planted together flourished, just like their relationship. Friends and family began to notice the change in Amina. Some were surprised, others were skeptical, but Hassan and Amina didn't mind. They knew that their happiness was more important than anyone's approval. One day, Amina decided to share her story with other women who were struggling. She started meeting with them, talking about her experiences and encouraging them to believe in hope and change. Her courage inspired many. She wanted others to know that even when life feels unfair and difficult, it is possible to find love and happiness. Hassan was proud of Amina. He stood by her side as she spoke to groups of women, helping her organize events and share messages of strength. Together, they dreamed of opening a small community center where women could learn, grow, and support each other. Though their journey had many challenges, Amina and Hassan never gave up. They faced difficult moments, but those times only made their bond deeper. They learned that love is not perfect, but it is real when it is based on trust and respect. One quiet evening, as the sun set behind the city buildings, Amina and Hassan sat together in their garden. Amina looked around at the flowers they had nurtured and smiled. She turned to Hassan and said, "I never imagined life could be this beautiful. What once felt like a punishment has become my greatest blessing." Hassan took her hand gently and replied, "You taught me the true meaning of love. You are brave and strong, and I am grateful every day to share this life with you." They sat quietly, feeling the peace they had created together. Their story was a reminder that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. Amina and Hassan's love had grown from a place of pain into a source of hope and joy. Their life was not just about them anymore. It was about the future they were building, for themselves and for others who needed to believe in second chances. And so their story continues. Two people who found each other not by choice at first, but by chance, and who chose every day to turn that chance into a love that could heal and transform.